Greetings and welcome to the very first overtime of 2022. I am Steve DEACE alongside Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, and our good friend and colleague, Chris Pandolfo. We stick around after the daily program that we do at noon to 2 Eastern after Glenn Beck here, live on Blaze TV, the Hall of Famer. We're the follow-up act because who else would want to have to follow that up, so they picked us. We stick around after that show and give you, our subscribers, a little mini bonus exclusive called The Overtime, and we do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, because we want to say thank you for subscribing. Please keep doing that so we can keep getting compensated. But then number two, we also always have something we didn't have time to get to during the daily show that we think deserves our time. And gentlemen, today's overtime is the results of this poll. This is the most voted in Twitter poll I have ever done. This had almost 10,000 votes, this one did. I asked this question after watching Trump for the first time break the seal in attempting to lecture his own base in that appearance with Bill O'Reilly over the Christmas break. Do you think Donald Trump even knows who or what things and people like VAERS, that's the Adverse Side Effects Database for CDC, or several different accounts that I follow and or know and share quite often, like, for example, our very own Daniel Horowitz or Dr. Peter McCullough, our former colleague Jordan Schachtel, the now banned Alex Berenson, etc. Do you think he even knows what this alternative information stream is and what their work counter to the corporate media's COVID stand narrative even says? 79.5% or 80% of my Twitter following in the most voted on Twitter poll I've ever done voted no, while 20% voted yes. Now, at the time I posted this poll, Ted Cruz had not self-immolated on January 6th and on Tucker Carlson's program yet. We'll get into that tomorrow during Fake News or Not, because I think it's actually part of this story. It's just a different symptom or another branch of the same source story. But let's just discuss these results. And in general, how informed do you think the people that we vote for really are about what we say within the media sources that their voters tend to patronize more? For example, when I first got into this to go to war against the GOP establishment and I got opportunities to be on MSNBC, I was a paid contributor at Politico, I was a contributor at USA Today. Why did and I'd have a lot of my conservative friends say, why do you do that? You know, none of our people read or watch that stuff. I'm like, I know. I didn't get into this business to do those things. But what I found out is actually most Republicans in elected office read and watch most of that stuff than they do us. I can just tell you, and we'll get more into this tomorrow, I can tell you for a fact. Now, maybe it's no longer true, but for a long time it was. I can't say that it's true right this minute. But for the longest time, I can tell you for a fact that one of the first things Ted Cruz did when he got up every morning is check that morning tip sheet at Politico. And so if Ted Cruz is reading Politico, what do you think Kevin McCarthy reads? You know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, if Ted Cruz gives a flying F what Politico writes, what do you think John Cornyn reads and watches? Let's discuss. Chris, you get to lead off as the guest. What say you?
Yeah, I think if you want to vote yes in that poll and say that Donald Trump has been aware of all those people, you have to agree to the notion that Donald Trump reads headlines that don't have the words Donald Trump in them, which I think is unrealistic. You know, I think his media consumption is very much him focused on like what his future is, the things that he's done. And that's why when he does all these interviews, he keeps saying the same stuff over and over and over again. He always talks about, you know, how the election was corrupt and how he got a raw deal there, how he actually was right and Fauci was wrong. You know, every time he talks about any of these issues, the subject of that conversation is always him and not actually data or facts or stuff that's coming out about the virus. And that's why he wants to promote the work that he did with these vaccines. That's what he told Bill O'Reilly's audience during that appearance. He's like, don't let the Democrats get away with this narrative. This is something we accomplished. So I think in terms of Donald Trump's personal media consumption, it tilts towards things that are about Donald Trump and not necessarily things that are about issues that could possibly be used to criticize what Donald Trump did or failed to do, and namely fire Fauci and follow the science and the vaccines in the way that some Republican governors who may be potential primary challengers have done.
That is an interesting theory, that essentially whatever platform is talking about him is the one that he's interested in. If it's not making him the story, in your opinion, then it doesn't matter what the source is, right, left, indifferent, off the beaten path. He's just not that interested in it.
Yeah, let me put it like this. I was at a pro-life dinner in Columbia, South Carolina on Friday, and Senator Lindsey Graham was there because he's invited to these things, and he was doing a short little spiel about, his relationship with the president. And he said, there's two things. The thing that we have in common is I like Donald Trump and Donald Trump likes Donald Trump, right? And that's how Lindsey Graham pitched it to his audience. And I just think that's true. I think Donald Trump is very self-obsessed, and that's just who he is. And if you want to use him to advance your political goals, you got to acknowledge that first.
Kind of buried the lead there, Chris. You were hobnobbing with Lindsey Graham.
Future Senate Majority Leader, including, at least according to my predictions for 2022 today, yes?
Hey, man, the who's who of South Carolina politicians was there. So the governor was there, the lieutenant governor. It was a big the state's pro-life organization held this banquet. And on all the issues Lindsey Graham does suck on, the life issue is actually one he's been fairly consistent about being a vocal supporter of, if not necessarily with his votes, with the way that he supports pro-life organizations in the state and does the things that they tell him to do.
Now, he did, when I was in the Cruz campaign, he criticized us for being a no-exception candidate.
Yeah, well, he was trying to run for president. And that's the other thing about Lindsey Graham, is he always says things he thinks his audience wants to hear. So, take that for what it is.
No, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Lindsey Graham was, came from behind. And anyway, Todd, go ahead.
There it is.
I have a hard time collecting myself after you do that to me on Lindsey Graham stuff. I really do. Here's the deal. I wish that level of ignorance was disqualifying, even for the base, but it's not. So here's the problem. And even though I still generally maintain what we said a long time ago, that no matter what DeSantis's intentions are back then, right now, that until he wins in Florida, he should not worry about presidential politics, Trump, any of it. That's still true. But for those interested, and I'm definitely one of them, that absolutely want this DeSantis over this Trump, and it's not even close. Again, the ignorance is not going to make that option much closer to reality than it is now. Therefore, people on his behalf in conservative media, I don't know who, but need to start thinking about making it more than ignorance with Trump, and how, if it's his, I'm not talking just for electoral gain, but if it's just honest that Donald Trump is going to be every bit the vaccine porn, COVID mistake-making guy, hasn't learned any lessons, you got to get him to do more than just the, shucks, and somebody boos him, stop that, or something like that. It's got to be clear that he's going to be working against you on this. Because I wish this was disqualifying for our base. It isn't. And heck, I say that in some ways it shouldn't, only because look at, just like we ran into last time, look at our options. It's all bad. The ground is bad. But we need to put Donald Trump in the position when things are soaring in Florida, where he has no choice but to pick a side and to comment and make clear who he is.
I just thought of something for the first time it's one of those things that I thought, why didn't I think of this before? Let's fast forward to summer 2023, like August, September of 2023.
Okay.
First televised GOP presidential primary debate.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Beautiful, Chris. Beautiful.
Gotcha.
Ron DeSantis turns to Donald Trump and says, Mr. President, like almost everybody, like pretty much everybody in this audience, I'm greatly appreciative of the leadership you showed the country for the 4 years you were in office. But when you wanted a taste of freedom again, when you wanted to know what it felt like to be an American again, where did you go? You moved your operation down to the Mar-a-Lago in my home state of Florida. And you're not alone. See where I'm going with this?
Well, it's the same place I'm going, but it happens.
That is a potent talking point.
Which is why it should be happening now with other people doing it besides him. Put him in that position now. It benefits us, all of us. Let's make Donald Trump not just sit there and do any aw shucks anything.
Yeah. You want to make Donald Trump great again.
Yeah. So either you just essentially you eliminate him, or as a political
or you
standard
strengthen
bearer,
him,
or you correct him, strengthen
yes.
him. Yeah, you're right, Aaron.
So Chris's analysis about Donald Trump just being about Donald Trump is 100% on the money, which is why in these scenarios you have to figure out who has Donald Trump's ear, because whoever has Donald Trump's ear has got to also figure out how can I make the case to Donald Trump that this stance on this issue is beneficial to Donald Trump. All right. Who has Donald Trump's ear? Well, I think Lindsey Graham fashions himself as the orange or the orange whisperer.
Yes.
Right
no
now.
doubt he does. No doubt he does.
Yeah. Where is Lindsey Graham getting his information? Probably the same polluted sources within Washington, D.C. that Sonia Sotomayor is getting her information at as well, saying 100,000 kids are currently hospitalized for COVID.
Bingo.
So that's where Donald Trump hasn't heard about those things because Lindsey Graham doesn't really care about those things right now. Or whoever has the ear right now. Donald Trump didn't fire Fauci because Jared had his ear, or whoever had his ear. Whoever has Donald Trump's ear and understands that if you make the case that this benefits Donald Trump by doing this, that, or the other thing, that's a powerful person. Because Chris said it's right and it's borne out, and it's what makes Donald Trump so frustrating and so powerful for our interests as well, is that if you can consistently make the case that this benefits him, that our interests and what we want you to do benefits Donald Trump, then you can do just about anything. But if you're not in that position, or somebody who doesn't have the ear of Donald Trump, who doesn't really agree with you, blah, 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 we've been through this before, it's an incredibly frustrating figure to follow.
Chris, as the guest, you also get the last word, brother. Go ahead.
Sure. I just have like a few questions. If we turn this question on its head and replace the word Trump with Ron DeSantis, do you think Ron DeSantis has listened to all the people you mentioned in your Twitter poll?
Most of
them, yeah. Because he's given them a platform.
He held a forum.
He's held forums with them on repeated cases. Not all of them, but certainly McCullough, Bhattacharya, right? Mm-hmm. Koldorf, Atlas. He's had all those people.
Was just hanging out with him not too long ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so, there's evidence of that because he has that record as a governor, as somebody who's in the executive office, right? Trump has a record too. And this is the thing that I think, the reason that there's nobody right now in conservative media kind of making these points, aside from this program, is conservative pundits are afraid of criticizing Donald Trump because they think the audience really, really, really likes Donald Trump. And they are afraid of losing their audience if they say negative things about Donald Trump. And I'm one of those people who just doesn't care. I will say the unpopular thing because I think it's the right thing or it's the true thing. And I'm willing to have a discussion if I'm wrong, but I usually try to back up what I say with facts or truth. The fact of Donald Trump's record as president of the United States is he didn't fire Fauci. He let 15 days to slow the spread become 2 years of COVID mandates. He didn't stand up for himself when states were changing their laws during the election to make it easier for mail-in voting and absentee voting and things like that because of COVID, and they just ignored some of the deadlines that they had in those states. His legal team instead went down rabbit holes that were impossible to prove about voting machines switching votes electronically, right? So a lot of this harm that has been impacted every American's life after the consequence of losing that election and all these mandates and these vaccine stuff, all of that is basically on Donald Trump's record and failure to perform on this issue. So going forward, if you're looking for a new leader, you got to look at like who got the record right. And if Trump is demonstrated to have not done so, and somebody else has, you have to ask the question, would that person be a better office holder than Trump running again in 2024? And everybody who's interested in actually like having a government that respects your rights and cares about those things has to ask themselves that question. And conservative media needs to be unafraid of asking that question too.
Because you're dead on, and that's why. And I'm just meaning to echo what you said. That's why, in this weird way, Donald Trump, yes, he's his primary opponent, DeSantis is, but in a weird way, Donald Trump right now saying, and I don't know if it's in him, but saying Ron DeSantis was the best leader on this, it would actually help Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
If he did it earlier.
And this isn't even about like DeSantis being somebody we just like.
No.
You know, and we're fans of this.
I don't know. I've spent 20 minutes in a hallway with Ron DeSantis once at CPAC when Daniel Horowitz introduced me to him. I spent a lot more time with Donald Trump. So I don't know either one of them very well, but I don't know Ron DeSantis, man, like at all. So it's not any relationship or anything whatsoever. I do know I have a couple of people that are contacts of mine that are in his operation, but those are two people that came to it late, like Kyle Lamb. He didn't get elected with Ron DeSantis. He got hired just last year. Okay. So it's not personal at all. It's just results along the lines of what you're talking about. And speaking of results, Chris, here's what I can tell you. This show's grown 300% in the last 2 years, often being very critical of Donald Trump's COVID policies from the right. So, I was also worried that when Trump gagged on 30 days to slow the spread, I came into work that day and said to Todd and Aaron, we may not last here much longer. I don't have the stomach to do another never Trump thing because I'm not changing because he's wrong, okay? But I on a professional level, I may not have the stomach to fight my own audience for a year again. I did it once. It was excruciatingly painful. I don't want to go through it again. So this might be the time for everybody to update their resumes. We had those conversations, not knowing that the audience, his base, would actually flock to our show instead, because what they hate and loathe and despise is attacking him for mean tweets or why isn't he nicer to judges and people that hate us. They hate that. But if you hit them from the right on the issues, my own career is pretty good evidence. They tend to respond pretty favorably to that, actually.
It's not about personalities. It's about your record as an executive office holder and your principles. And as far as Donald Trump goes, like we said at the beginning of the show, the reason that he doesn't seem to be listening to all those people you mentioned in your poll and all these alternative media sources that don't follow the mainstream COVID narrative is I don't think he just has the principles or the desire to do that, because he's focused on what Donald Trump wants, and what Donald Trump wants is not always what's best for the country.
Chris, good to see you as always. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
You bet. That'll do it for today's Overtime. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Hall of Famer Glenn Beck here on Blaze TV. And until then, John 3:17.